Forget honor. Forget the law. Miyamoto Musashi wasn't a hero. He was a monster. While others studied poetry, a 13-year-old Musashi was already a killer, beating a grown warrior to death with a wooden pole. No grace, no ceremony, just raw animalistic violence. He didn't wash. He didn't comb his hair. He spat on the way of the samurai to follow the way of the kill. Here is the mystery that haunts history. How did this masterless dog survive 60 death matches without a single scratch? And why did the most dangerous man in Japan eventually trade his sword for a cave? The year 1600, the Battle of Sekigahara. A teenage Musashi stood in the mud as 160,000 men hacked each other to pieces. He didn't just survive the bloodiest day in history, he let it consume him. He became a ronin, a ghost in the woods who realized honor was for the dead. Victory was the only god he served. He lived in the wild, hunted by bounty hunters, sharpening his blade on the bones of his enemies. He wasn't looking for a master, he was looking for a challenge. When he arrived in Kyoto, he was a plague. He challenged the elite Yoshioka clan, dismantling their tradition with a wooden stick and a demon's mind. He arrived late. He struck before they bowed. He proved that status means nothing when a beast is at your throat. Now the Yoshioka want revenge. Not a duel, but an execution. 70 men against 1. Most would run. Musashi just drew his second sword. The real bloodbath starts now.
Kyoto, 1604. The Yoshioka school wasn't just a gym, it was an institution. They were the untouchable elite who trained the shogun's family. Then, a filthy, masterless dog named Musashi walked in and broke them. He didn't just beat them, he humiliated them. He crushed the clan leader's skull with a wooden stick. He killed the brother and took his sword as a trophy. The Yoshioka name was in the dirt. They realized a fair fight was impossible. To save their honor, they chose murder. The trap was set at the Ichijoji pine tree. This wasn't a duel, it was an execution. 70 swordsmen, archers, and musketeers lay in wait. They expected Musashi to be late, as usual, but Musashi wasn't a fool. While 70 men whispered in the dark, checking their watches, the beast was already there. He had arrived hours early, watching the hunters become the prey from the shadows. He didn't wait for the ambush. He charged the center of their line and decapitated their new leader before a single blade could clear its scabbard. Now it was 70 against 1. Gunfire ripped through the trees. Arrows hissed past his head. In this moment of pure chaos, history changed. Musashi did the unthinkable. He drew his second sword. Katana in the right, wakizashi in the left. He became a human hurricane, a whirlwind of steel that followed no style but the rhythm of death. He used the crowd against itself, carving a path through the center of hell and leaving a trail of bodies in the mud. He escaped. 70 men couldn't stop one monster. That night, the Yoshioka school was erased from history. Musashi was now the most famous and most hated man in all of Japan. But the ultimate test was still waiting. Somewhere in the distance, a man just as fast and twice as elegant was waiting for him. A man named Yujiro.
Miyamoto Musashi had stood victorious in 60 duels, a walking legend who had overcome every style of combat known to man. But one man remained who didn't fear the reputation of the untamed, Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro was the anti-Musashi. He was elegant, precise, and a master of the drying pole, a massive longsword handled with the grace of a surgeon. He was the golden boy of the samurai world. This wasn't just a match, it was the final confrontation for the ultimate title, strongest under heaven. Musashi's unconventional genius reached its peak here.
Kojiro arrived on Ganyu Island exactly on time, dressed in his finest silks for glory. Musashi? He arrived 3 hours late. He let Kojiro wait under the burning sun, allowing the challenger's own anticipation to turn into a restless, poisonous anger. And instead of a traditional blade, Musashi brought a wooden oar he had carved into a heavy club while rowing to the shore. When he finally stepped onto the sand, Kojiro was trembling with a loss of focus. The Golden Boy drew his legendary blade and threw his scabbard into the crashing waves. Musashi just whispered, "If you have no more use for your sheath, you have already accepted your defeat." Kojiro lunged. His blade was long, but Musashi's wooden oar reached further. One decisive strike, one impact that echoed across the silent island. The Golden Boy's journey ended before he even realized he had been outplayed. Musashi had won. But as he looked down at the fallen form of the only man who truly equaled him in skill, something inside him shifted. He realized that being the strongest was a hollow victory if it meant standing alone. He had spent his life overcoming the only men who truly understood the path he walked. He put away his steel forever. He spent his final years in the silence of the Reigondo cave. No more conflict, just a brush and a search for truth. He wrote the Book of 5 Rings, realizing his greatest adversary wasn't a rival samurai, it was his own ego. Musashi proved that an untamed spirit can become a disciplined master. The sword is just a tool, the mind is the true weapon. Most of you are losing the battle with your own distractions every single day. You're unfocused, you're drifting. Are you going to remain a slave to your impulses, or are you going to enter the cave and face yourself?